Well, hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to a new edition of our EKN OutLap podcast, episode 39. It is June the 7th, 2022, and our OutLap, always part of our EKN Trackside live coverage, the essential preview podcast for an event that we're heading to. And I say we, that's not we, it's actually just David Cole heading to the Superkarts USA Pro Tour Spring Nationals this coming weekend. And in Utah, Grantsville, Utah, to be exact, at the Utah Motorsports Campus. We'll dive more into the actual event itself and the venue. But again, another edition of the EKN OutLap to kick off our Trackside live coverage. Today's EKN OutLap brought to you by Leading Edge Motorsports. Leading Edge Motorsports is the industry answer to winning in karting. At the helm is industry veteran Greg Bell, who has orchestrated the success of countless drivers dating back to the mid-1990s. Leading Edge Motorsports is the West Coast importer and factory team for IP Karting, which manufactures the ultra-competitive Praga and Formula K chassis brands. In 2022, Leading Edge will be trackside at the SCUSA Pro Tour, Florida Winter Tour, United States Pro Kart Series, Stars Championship, California Pro Kart Challenge, and high-profile Rock Cup events. Contact us today to book your spot under the tent. Visit leadingedgemotorsports.com for more info or find us on Facebook and Instagram. At Leading Edge Motorsports, winning never gets old. Again, episode number 39 of the OutLap. My name is Rob Howden, joined as always by the managing editor of ekartingnews.com, David Cole. And DC, time to get back on the road. You've had a couple of weekends at home. June 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. We have that coming up here this weekend. Again, it's Tuesday now, as I had said. Utah Motorsports Campus. The track has been home to a lot of high-profile events over the last decade or so.
It certainly has, including Superkarts USA. This will actually be the fourth visit for the organization to what used to be called the Miller Motorsports Park and now the Utah Motorsports Campus. And again, it's one of those newer facilities, I guess you could say, because it's been built over the last 20 years. So it certainly drew a lot of attention early when it was first built. And now, Superkarts USA is really the only major event that does travel to the Utah Motorsports Campus.
Yeah, and the track itself, built by one of the noted names in track design, Alan Wilson. A number of different facilities that Alan Wilson's handled: NOLA Motorsports Park, Barber Motorsports Park, a lot of tracks, a lot of karting facilities as well. And this one, I'll be honest, I'm normally not a big fan of Alan Wilson's designs. A lot of them more of a kind of he designs for more of a country club track day kind of a track, in my opinion. But this track actually plays out really well. There are a lot of opportunities to pass at Utah Motorsports Campus, some long straightaways, a lot of great corners where you really have to open up the entry, which always invites the dive down the inside. So lots of places to pass. The event itself, the SpringNationals, was actually the very first race of the Pro Tour back in 2010. We're now into the 13th season of this incredible championship. Great consistency for the sport and Superkarts USA. That first SpringNationals 2010 at Sonoma Raceway, the Sim Raceway Karting, Performance Karting Center at the time. SpringNationals now, of course, in its 13th edition. Rounds 3 and 4, David, of a 6-round championship this year. Best 5 count, of course, but kind of getting to the midway through the season, right? You've got the first races in the books with the Winter Nationals at NOLA. Now it's time to see who can step up and kind of work their way through mid part of the season.
Yeah, we're certainly at the midway point of the season. We're into the month of June, the 6th month out of the year. A lot of racing has already taken place before this weekend. And so, this is kind of going to be that halfway point and really crucial for those that are looking to battle in the championship for the SCUSA Pro Tour. Again, drivers that aren't going to be there and drivers who are there looking to kind of rebound from like you said, from NOLA. So my memory is going to be a little fuzzy because I wasn't there. You were there, so you should have more of a somewhat of a reminder of what happened in NOLA. So you are old. You're getting old. You're forgetting a lot of things. So I want to make sure the audience bears with us because again, I wasn't there. So we have to go on your memory, which is getting weaker and weaker every year.
Let me look down through the script. I'm hoping you've added some information for me. I appreciate that. I'll fake it till I make it. Dude,
there you go. I at least have the points up so I can kind of tell you how things unfolded going that way.
Well, listen, the bottom line is this, right? Rounds 3 and 4. second race of the 3-round program, the second event of the 3-event program. You're either trying to maintain momentum that you had at the Winter Nats or potentially bounce back, right? That's really the two approaches if you're trying to go for a championship. You may have struggled and not had a great weekend at NOLA for the Winter Nationals. This is the chance to really fight back. But the drivers who were good there maybe came away with some wins or the top 3, top 5 in the points. It's about maintaining, right? You have a different approach coming into an event like this when you maybe have some room for, some cushion, if you will.
Well, especially because of the amount of points that are available. 320 points is the maximum you can get per round. And so that's a lot of points to deal with. And again, if you have a bad race, say a pre-final, you're losing possible points there. If you don't qualify on pole position, you're losing 10 points there. Fast lap of the race, you're gaining 10 points in the main event there. So there's a lot of points out there for grabs. And so if you've already had that one bad race at NOLA, you can make up with it with 2 solid rounds in Utah to kind of take you into the Summer Nationals and be able to contend for a championship. Again, that's what we've seen in a number of different years where not the leader of the championship doesn't always leave the champion when we get to Summer Nationals. Yeah,
100%. One of the big differences we should point out, normally Spring Nationals have been held on that first week of May. Winter Nationals first week of March, Spring Nationals first week of May, and then usually the first or second week of August for the Summer Nats. The schedule changing around quite a bit this year. Obviously, Winter Nationals getting pushed into I can't remember when we had that event at the top of my head, but dude, we're like second week of June. We're a month later, and that's going to mean significantly different weather conditions. The temperatures, David, I haven't looked totally at it, but man, we're looking like high 80s, maybe into the 90s, right? In terms of temp.
Yeah, thankfully the wet weather is not forecasted for the weekend, but as we look at it right now, it's going to be highs in the upper 80s and then lower 90s when we get into Saturday. So it's going to be a hot one all weekend long. And that's something, we were there in July for other events, including the Summer Nationals back in 2012.
That's it.
And it can get extremely hot there. So yeah, conditions are going to be a little bit warmer than what competitors are used to. Maybe not so much the Texas competitors or Florida drivers or right. California drivers or even the Arizona drivers. But for everybody else, it's going to be a little bit warmer than normal.
Let's talk about the track itself, the facility, the layout they're using, the Star Track layout. I'm not sure if that's the same one as before. You can give us some more insight there. Yeah, okay, same one. Just under a mile. And again, I talked about the Alan Wilson design. 18 turns. There's a lot of corners in this track. It is still very flowing, but again, I love the fact that it has a lot, like NOLA, has a lot of corners where you really have to open up the entry to get a good exit, and that's what opens the door for that big dive bomb move down the inside.
Yeah, there's not really any really slow sections of the racetrack. Obviously, there's a hairpin, and that's about the slowest section. And it's not very slow, but it's a harder braking zone. So it seems like you're slowing up a lot. But in reality, it's like you said, it's all about keeping that flow and maintaining that good pace throughout the lap. And again, with the amount of corners, 18 different turns, there's a lot of room for errors. And that's unfortunate, for some drivers, not exactly up to speed with the track itself. And so there's room for drivers to break away. We saw that a lot last year with drivers, just getting a good setup and hitting their marks and not making mistakes. So I think, having mistake-free races, that we saw that with championships last year, you can't make any mistakes if you want to be able to contend at the Summer Nationals for a championship. But every single, 18 different corners, it's just a lot of room for error for drivers who aren't up to grips with the racetrack after 2 days of practice.
It's interesting that we call it a newer facility, but it's been around for 16 years, opened back in 2006, as David had mentioned, as Miller Motorsports Park, a full road race track, 4-mile road race track there as well, including an off-road facility. There's a lot of different parts of motorsports that are supported at the Utah Motorsports campus. It's held Superkarts USA racing 3 times. David mentioned the Summer Nats back in 2012, and we had the SpringNationals there in 19 and 2021. Obviously, no SpringNationals in 2020 due to COVID. So, David, thinking about this track here, back to the Spring Nats again, how much in your mind does it play to people that were there last year? I know a lot of guys were there this past week testing. What do you think about track knowledge and those who were there last year?
Well, I think that's certainly going to help. But like you said, those competitors who were already there this past weekend, if they haven't been there before, they obviously got the learning curve out of the way. And get the initial setups going. But again, weather, I don't think was quite as hot as what it's going to be. So track conditions are going to change. But again, once you become familiar with a racetrack, it certainly helps. And again, there are a few local drivers that could be factors in a couple of the KA categories and even in shifter. We'll talk a little bit about that as well too. But it's just, again, one of those racetracks where you just gotta get in that rhythm. And that's something that we're seeing at a lot of different racetracks we go to.
Dave, give us the update on the event schedule for those who will be tuning in throughout the weekend. I know Xander Clemens and the good folks at Kart Chase are going to be covering the event. I won't be there personally myself. My first time I've ever missed a Superkarts USA Pro Tour event. I have a conflict with my Road to Indy duties, so not able to be there. Xander will be able to handle things, but run us through the event schedule, how things are going to go this coming weekend.
Well, as mentioned, they'll have 2 days of practice, both on Thursday and Friday. There'll be 5 rounds both days. You'll have 3 7-minute sessions to begin with, and then 2 12-minute sessions on each day. The last session on Friday obviously sets you up for grid on the qualifying days or qualifying rounds that we'll have. Round 3 will be on Saturday. You'll have your warm-up, qualifying, pre-final. 10 laps are the pre-finals, 8 for the cadet divisions, and then main events will be 20 laps with 18 laps for those cadet divisions. And then we'll get into round 4 on Saturday and on Sunday we'll follow the same format with qualifying, pre-final, and finals.
Do it all again. Long races, 20 lappers, and it's going to be pushing everybody, especially in the high heat, as David said, potentially into the low 90s on Saturday. We are underway with this edition of the EKN OutLap, doing a deep dive as a preview into the Superkarts USA Spring Nationals, round 3 and 4 of the 2022 Superkarts USA Pro Tour. Don't go anywhere. We come back, we're going to look at the numbers. We've, of course, got the spreadsheet, the entries from Superkarts USA, just over 200 pre-entries coming into the event. When we get back, we'll dive into the class-by-class layout. In karting, it's important to be supported by the right people. With over 40 years of experience in the sport, Trinity Karting Group has everything you need to make your program successful. We do it all, and we do it right. Trackside support and arrive and drive programs at many of karting's biggest East Coast events, full product sales and service, and professional coaching from our experienced staff. Trinity Karting Group is a full-service operation based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which gives us access to our custom-designed driver training facility. This allows us to offer private one-on-one coaching to take you to the next level. From arrive and drive and coaching programs to the parts you need, let Trinity Karting Group provide you with customer service and a racing experience second to none. Trinity Karting Group is an official Kart Republic race team, providing full trackside support at all the major USA karting events, including the SCUSA Pro Tour, United States Pro Kart Series, SCUSA Super Nationals 25, and other events throughout the 2022 season. TKG has in stock Kart Republic, IAME, MG and Avinco tires, and more products for those in Ohio and the Midwest region. Trinity Karting Group has a long history of the sport, a winning pedigree, and we're dedicated to driver development. We take pride in our professional approach and our positive attitude. Let us build a custom race program for you. Give us a call at 513-421-4463 or check us out online at trinitykartinggroup.com.
Are you ready to go from karts to cars? Since 1975, the Skip Barber Racing School has taken great drivers and made them champions. Today, we're proud to welcome the next generation of winners. Make the transition from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Formula Race Series. You'll compete at the most iconic tracks in America. Race weekends include your very own equalized Formula 4 race car, a professional crew, expert instruction, video and data analysis, hospitality, and more. This is the place to fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. Sign up today by calling 866-932-1949 or visit us at skipbarber.com.
Welcome back to episode 39 of our EKN OutLap, our preview podcast that's part of our EKN Trackside live coverage. David Cole, myself, Rob Howden, diving into a preview of the Superkarts USA Spring Nationals, the second event on the three-event SCUSA Pro Tour. Of course, Summer Nationals at Newcastle in late July. The By the Numbers section that we do in each and every one of our OutLap podcasts. We have, of course, the spreadsheets of the pre-entries for the event. David, just over 204 entries in total, and the biggest categories matched. That is KA 100 Junior and Senior, both events coming in with 36 pre-entries.
Yeah, good numbers as we've seen, across the country in the 100cc divisions, and Superkarts USA is among those as well, with the KA divisions up 7 in the junior division, while we're actually down 12. Again, I think a lot of that has to do with the East Coast going to West Coast. A lot of competitors just in the senior divisions not heading out west to take part in the Pro Tour event. So just kind of focused on the NOLA, which happened to be, after USPKS. So it was kind of that race in between the USPKS events. And again, the northern states were still a little cold at that time. So not a lot of tracks were opening up at that time. But yeah, so good numbers there to have 72 drivers in the 100cc divisions.
There really are some interesting things to jump on. Let's just look at the event. Last year, 221 entries. The year before, 2 years before in 2019, 185, 184 at Phoenix back in 2018, and 240, a big weekend at Sonoma back in 2017. And David, we'll talk about this. At that point, there was a lot of West Coast racers on the Superkarts USA Pro Tour. They were getting up to that 240, 250 back in 2017. As we've talked about through many of our podcasts over this last little while, there has been a shift to major support, major participation on the national level on the East Coast. In fact, West Coast drivers come into a lot of East Coast races like the USPKS. So really interesting to see kind of the numbers dipping a little bit here, but still over that 200 mark that you and I always kind of post as a national. When you get over to 200, that's that big national event. A couple that really jump out for me. First and foremost, let's talk about this one. And really is these two actually kind of the drop of Masters racing in Superkarts USA Pro Tour competition. When the Pro Tour came out in 2010, it was that place where Masters were able to race nationally. No other programs in the country did anything for Masters, no support for Masters whatsoever. SCUSA was the place where Masters came to run. We had guys in high 20s, maybe even into the 30, usually over 30. It was the first class to sell out at the Super Nationals, right? Every year. No X30 Masters this year, and not that there was for this weekend. Not that there was none. There was one pre-entry, I think about a week ago, and SCUSA said, "Listen, we got one pre-entry. Nobody else is entering," and they decided to just cancel the class for the weekend, which I think it's a good move for them. You can't take up 2 hours for the track time on a day or an hour and a half for the track time for one or two drivers.
Yeah, we're already at 8 race groups, 9 different categories because they'll run Pro Shifter and Master Shifter together. But yeah, it just adds to the day, and it's just not worth it. It's not, unfortunately the numbers have to be there in order to provide something. Again, it's no different with any type of sport that you do. You got to have the numbers. And unfortunately, yeah, the master side of things, we only have 5 master shifter drivers that are going to be in Utah. And you think back to that Sonoma weekend where we had 240 drivers at the Spring Nationals in 2017. I want to say 40 drivers were Masters drivers, and that's split up between the Master Shifter class and X30 Masters. So that's essentially where we've lost, Superkarts USA has lost the numbers. They've obviously gained numbers with the KA Junior, KA Senior. It's helped, build, numbers up because Pro Shifter is not exactly where it was as well. So again, it's just kind of that mix. I think, at that time, 2017, there were not a lot of places to run Masters. Now we obviously have grassroots with the Briggs and Stratton 206 stuff where, people are fine with just racing a Briggs race at home or in a regional level. So there's a lot of different options out there for Masters drivers right now, and you got a lot of regional programs that are doing the 100cc program. So hopefully maybe that might be the next resurgence. As we're seeing with junior and senior in the KA100 division, maybe within, 2024, we'll be able to maybe have a KA100 masterclass if we continue to build up the numbers at the club and regional level.
Again, we talked about this. Club level drivers feed regional level drivers. All the regions are what feed the national programs. And if there's just nobody to run X30 Master and they don't want to run it, great call. Drop that one out. Obviously, Master shifter low at 5, which is a shame. But David, a positive, obviously Aspen Fuel stepping up with their green for green, putting a bunch of cash into the pro shifter category. Only 13 pro shifters last year, a 50% improvement, even more than that, up to 22 pro shifters will be on track this weekend.
Yeah, and it's not the only prize package that's going to be offered. Obviously, the Aspen Green for Green is going to be a weekend total purse, and that'll be for the pro shifter category. I believe it was $6,000. That'll be divvied up between first place, second place, and third place overall, with $3,000 going to the overall weekend winner. But they also have $2,500 for first place per day in X30 Junior, X30 Senior, Pro Shifter, and Master Shifter. So again, it's there's a lot of money being doled out. Well over $212,000 worth of cash and prizes on the season for the SCUSA Pro Tour. But yeah, adding that extra little cash flow to the Pro Shifter, I think certainly has helped bring a little bit more attention. And again, I think just opening up the engine package has done that as well too. People want to run what they want to run, and thankfully now we have that going, and we're seeing a resurgent back. And I think we're seeing at the regional level too, we're seeing a lot of entries, people moving over from the single speed to shifter karts right now. Where drivers who are 16, 17, 18, those even just they've done the single speed stuff, and now they're looking for that next challenge. And I think that's great. I think that's something we just need to continue to see going in order to grow the shifter categories across the country.
It's really interesting you bring that up, because I'll just do a quick little side here. I started Shifter Kart Illustrated magazine back in 1998 because shifters was this awesome, badass outlaw kind of category. There were guys that were 18 to 25 or older racing in it. It was that that where adult drivers went to race to a certain extent, right? If you were 16 or 17, and Scott Speed coming in at 16, you were the young guy. So it's really interesting now that I think we see people jumping back into shifters, like you said, regional level racing. We're seeing it at a bunch of the other events, other series where guys are getting back into shifters. Maybe they're getting a little bored with the single speed, wanting to jump behind the wheel of a shifter. I like seeing that move back, and hopefully it will continue. Let's wrap up the by the numbers, David, with the fact that Micro Swift and Mini Swift still strong. A little drop off to 20 drivers in Micro, but 35 strong in Mini. That's a good field. And even the X30 Junior matching last year's number of 22. Senior down about 5, but still 28 drivers in X30 Senior. And it's a pretty deep field in the X30 Senior class.
Yeah, a number of these categories have some solid competition going from Micro all the way up to X30 Senior. So we're definitely going to be seeing some good racing all weekend long in Utah.
Speaking of that, we're going to dive right into the full-on previews after this quick break. X30 Senior, KA100 Senior, and Pro Shifter. We'll go to the headline categories for the senior drivers right after this quick break. It all started in 1994 when former successful kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Fast forward 20 years, and Parolin's passion for the sport led to the company rejoining international competitions as a factory team in WSK and CIK FIA races, with the aim of enhancing the research and development process, immediately achieving notable results around Europe, North America, and Asia, becoming the CIK FIA Asia Pacific KZ champion in the same year. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products, We run a factory team at all of the major Superkarts USA and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis lineup for 2021 includes the Invader Shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior classes, and the 28mm mini kart for the cadet classes. Parolin has been winning races all over the world, and it's on top of the podium in the USA as well, with drivers like Kai Sorensen, Mateus Orjuela, and Alessandro De Tullio. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. Need race fuel or oil? Hyperfuels is an authorized distributor for several of the brands that are spec fluids in American karting, including ELF and Aspen Sport. They also stock and ship methanol. Hyperfuels has a web store that can take your orders 24/7, and they ship UPS. That's right, Hyperfuels can ship fuel and oil right to your door. Whether you need ELF Racing Fuels or ELF ATX 909 oil, or Aspen Sport 98 octane fuel for SCUSA competition, they have it in stock. When you need it now, go to hyperfuels.com. Welcome back to episode 39 of the EKN OutLap. My name is Rob Howden, joined by David Cole as we preview this coming weekend SuperKarts USA Spring Nationals at Utah Motorsports Campus, round 3 and 4 of the 2022 SCUSA Pro Tour. We'll start things off with our preview here, class by class, with X30 Senior, 28 entries as we had detailed before the break. Drivers stepping up to get race wins at the Winter Nationals. I think very interesting because it's kind of that dichotomy, the two different sides. The rookie Jeremy Fletcher coming right out of junior, he gets a victory, and then of course that stalwart veteran driver, the number one guy in the sport when it comes to single speed racing, Ryan Norberg. David, they're able to get wins, but look who comes out with the point lead with a comfortable run in both those races. Nate Cicero with a 94-point lead coming into the event over his teammate Ryan Norberg.
Yeah, consistency. Again, you gotta be good. Well, all 6 rounds, yes, counting the best 5 of 6. But in order to be in the championship chase, you got to be good across the board. And obviously, Cicero was able to do that in NOLA as he was able to pick up some podium victories or podium results with a third place on Sunday or Saturday, and then a runner-up finish on Sunday to Norberg. So again. And you look at the top 4 in the championship chase, we'll be publishing the EKN Tag Driver Rankings presented by Skip Barber Racing School here later today. The top 4 in the championship chase are the top 4 in the rankings, actually, right now. A little bit shuffled up in the order with, as you said, Cicero leading the championship over Norberg. Norberg, obviously, our number 1 driver in the Tag Driver Rankings. With 4 victories right now in USPKS competition, you add this Pro Tour victory at the Winter Nationals, and then obviously some other races that he's done in the past as well. But Thomas Nepvu sitting there in 2nd in the driver rankings, sitting 3rd in the Pro Tour. Unfortunately, the Canadian will not be in Utah as he will be with you at Road America.
Yeah, Thomas running for D-Force Racing in the Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship. He'll be at Road America with me. Paulie Massimino and Marian Kremers, the 2 drivers in 4th and 5th in the championship. One name, and we'll just kind of jump through the names, David. One of the guys that we were seeing back, who's been a race winner in the Road Dandy, his season coming to a halt after St. Petersburg. Christian Brooks going to jump back behind the wheel of a CRG for Nash Motorsports. So back with his Nash teammates. Let's see what Brooks is able to do when he gets back behind the wheel, right?
Yeah, if you recall, one of his Pro Tour victories was aboard a CRG at NOLA Motorsports Park back in 2017 at one of the original or the inaugural Winter Nationals back in 2017. So a little bit of, working back with you and Jeffrey on the CRG, working with Nash Motorsports, of course, where he's raced his entire karting career. So it'll be interesting to see how Brooksy does coming back.
So threw some names out there. We talked about Nate Cicero already. We talked about Jeremy Fletcher, who is obviously the very impressive rookie guy, kind of following in the footsteps of Connor Zilich for being that guy out of junior and really becoming an immediate race winner. News about Fletcher, though, let's drop off the fact that he's swapping teams. This will be his debut, David, for Ryan Perry Motorsport.
It will, again, staying with the same OTK Tony Kart product, just moving under the Ryan Perry Motorsport tent. Again, working alongside Paulie Massimino, who sits third in the EKN Tag Driver rankings and fourth in this championship. So that's going to be a really good tandem that are going to be working together along with the other drivers under the Ryan Perry Motorsport tent. So, it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works, if they work well together, if there's any, situations on the racetrack between them two or not. And, because obviously they've been racing against each other as, kind of rivals. Yeah. Now they're teammates. So
how does that work, right? How's the dynamic work when they're under the tent? I love that. I think it'll be interesting. Speaking of dynamics under the tent, here we got PSL karting, and it's a couple of European drivers really carrying the flag for Burrell Art North American PSL karting, with Marian Kremers, who's doing double duty, and Petro Hiltbrand as well. How do you like those two drivers on the Burrell Arts?
Yeah, Kremers obviously had a better weekend than Pedro did at NOLA. Pedro was unable to break even into the top 10, while Kremers obviously sitting fifth, as we mentioned earlier. So he got a pole position on the opening round at NOLA. Ended up finishing the fifth spot that day and finished a little bit lower than that on Sunday. So again, still trying to work out the single speed Burrell Art program. Obviously having Pedro there helps, kind of continue with the development, but there's obviously a number of different drivers racing under the PSL tent too that they're going to be working with. So again, still a little bit of work in progress, I think, for them. And we'll see if, the testing they did this past weekend will help go into this weekend.
We mentioned Christian Brooks with Nash Motorsports. He's got some pretty quick teammates too in Dante Yu and Blake Nash, who will run X30 Senior. So I think that team's going to be in a position to potentially do some damage inside the top 10. And, we mentioned Ryan Norberg, of course. He's always been very good at Utah Motorsports campus. Has used that race to show some dominance and potentially kind of grab a hold of a championship. And he may do the same thing this coming weekend. But he and Cicero at Rawson Performance Group. But you throw Paul Bocuse in there as well. You talk about Wes Duchak. There are a lot of guys at Rawson Performance Group, David, that could do some damage this weekend, including Hayden Jones.
Yeah, I was just going to say Hayden Jones and Jason Lewing. Jason has been going back and forth racing in Canada, racing in Europe, racing here in the U.S. So Jason's got a lot of frequent flyer miles going and doing some successful racing. I want to say he was in contention at the IAME European Series recently. I don't have the results in front of me, but showing very well over there. Again, getting more and more confident in the senior division.
I got another handful of guys I want to throw at you to get your thoughts. Number one, I'll start with Cameron Weinberg for Speed Concepts Racing. We've seen that CRG really kind of work its way to the forefront. It might play well for Christian Brooks as well, who's got CRG experience. But Weinberg on the CRG has been good out of the gate to start the season down in Florida.
Yeah, and especially at the USPKS Carolina Grand Prix that we had at GoPro Motorplex, where he was able to double up on, or not two podiums, had a runner-up finish as his best result behind Ryan Norberg. So he knows he's got running up front down. Now it's a matter of, okay, can he contend? And again, there's always that little difference. You can catch somebody, but can you get by them? So I want to see a little bit more racecraft out of Cameron. Obviously, he's a senior rookie, just like Jeremy Fletcher. I think Fletcher's got a little bit more racecraft than Weinberg does, especially here in the senior level thus far. But I think, Utah could be a perfect opportunity to kind of, grow that racecraft with Speed Concepts Racing and the CRG.
Yeah, you got to seal the deal, right? Kyriakos Soukas.
No, without a doubt.
Kyriakos Soukas from Alex Keys Racing and John Burke from Supertune USA. I expect to see both those drivers in the top 10 or even in the top 5 if they get things dialed in.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we can get some West Coast drivers, at the front. That's, something we've talked about in the podcast previous to this is, we're all the West Coast drivers, and there's a lot of them in this field. So a lot of California drivers, just as you mentioned, Kyriakos Soukas being one of them. What can they do to take it to Norberg or the other drivers from the East Coast that are coming into what is the only Pro Tour race on the West side?
Yeah, a couple of drivers, I think that we will look for is Cole Kleck for Arcane Motorsports, Dalton Haynes, of course, him and his brother, the low budget team out of North Carolina, and only one IndyCar driver in the field. Zachary Clement DeMello back with Team Pennick again. Of course, ran Indy Lights and did a bunch of IndyCar races as well.
Yeah, I actually think he's racing on an updated entry for him. Zachary's been working with Paralin USA as a driver coach. And when talking to Yannick Roland previously, I think his entry just wasn't updated.
Copy that. So, I did not know that.
The details. So I think it'll be under the Paralin USA tent.
That's definitely interesting to think about with Zachary Clement DeMello. Well, that wraps up the interesting thing, David. I'll just say this before we move on to KA 100. We talked about a lot of drivers in that group. It's not a massive field of drivers, but we have 28, I think we said, but it's a very deep field. When you throw these guys like Jacob Hoover in there and Frankie Mossman and Ryan Vincent, there's a lot of really, really talented drivers. There's not a lot of slouches in this particular field.
No, there's not. Again, that's something that we've talked about at the national level is the quality of fields that we're getting. It may not be the 40, 50, or 60 that you can see. Despite that, the field quality is there for sure.
Let's jump into the KA 100 senior class. 36 drivers in the field. Again, both junior and senior, the two largest fields on the weekend as we have for pre-entries. Again, always wondering how many walk-ups you'll get, drivers who haven't signed up yet. Cedric Lupien was a winner at the Winter Nationals at NOLA. Jeremy Fletcher, of course, getting victories in both X30 senior and KA 100 senior. Lupien ends up 10 points behind in the points. Alex Stanfield, though, the driver coming in with the point lead, he had a really solid overriding weekend at NOLA, was able to get two good finishes in. He leads the points coming in. Has had some really good runs in USPKS competition as well. Stanfield lining up to try to get his first Superkarts USA championship. But again, Lupien and Fletcher will both be there to battle it out.
Yeah, two runner-up finishes by Stanfield has him leading the championship, as you said. So you got to be consistent. He was third in the pre-final on Saturday and won the pre-final on Saturday. So again, those points help add up in the end. Yeah. And again, keeping that podium streak going is going to be obviously on the mind for Stanfield. Whether it be a win it or lose it type move. I got to think he's going to be thinking championship throughout the weekend, coming in with a championship lead. But you can't count out Cedric Lupien. Obviously, the Canadians have been fast in anything that he gets into. And now into the 100cc, already picking up a victory. So, having a fifth place finish in round two, okay. So he's only 10 points out. So again, I think those two guys are going to be thinking more championship than anybody else. Because as you said, Cole Kleck, 126 points out in third. And then Peyton Phillips, 174 points out in fourth. So that's a lot of points there that they already have on everybody else. So it's a matter of keeping it out front for Stanfield and Lupien.
Yeah, David, you mentioned it. When it comes to winning a championship in Superkarts USA competition with so many points up for grabs in those pre-finals as well, you've got to qualify well. You get the pole bonus, but you've got to be good in every race. You can't sit back if you have trouble at a pre-final. That's really going to hurt you in terms of championship. You mentioned the top four. Currently in the fifth spot, Caleb Schrader and Carson Morgan at 182 points. And there's something, obviously, to talk about the Morgans. This was kind of a fallout from the Winter Nationals after NOLA. It wasn't a big announcement. It was kind of just the guys getting on their social media saying, hey, you know what, guys? That was it. That was our essentially swan song. We're done with racing. A shame, obviously, because Cole and Carson, both very talented drivers who I believe had the skill set to move forward and potentially get into professional careers. Will we see them in cars coming up? Maybe we will. I haven't had any conversations with them, but it's really not something we really jumped on early with them, essentially, capping off their racing careers. Carson, of course, one of the most decorated junior drivers, cadet junior drivers we've had over the last decade. And it's a bit of a disappointment to see that we won't have any Morgans on the grid here this coming weekend.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't know about it till today. I was away on vacation during the Winter Nationals, and so wasn't on social media or anything like that week after the event. So I had no idea about it. I asked Ryan Perry at Ryan Perry Motorsport, "What's the deal? How come there are no Morgans on there?" And he confirmed, "Hey, they're stepping away from karting for right now." So it's as you said, it's a shame not to be able to see the talent that both Morgans have on the grid there and on the racetrack. So again, a void to fill, but there's a lot of drivers that are looking to fill that void, especially in the K100 senior division.
Yes, we threw out some of the names that obviously were up front at NOLA, an Alex Stanfield, a Cedric Lupien, a Cole Kleck, a Jeremy Fletcher. I think other guys we should be watching probably this week, and we mentioned Peyton Phillips as well. One of the drivers, in my mind, David, that's really kind of stepped things up from the start of the season is Aiden Rudolph. He's kind of become one of the guys that I think you have to watch anytime KA100 rolls onto the racetrack.
Yeah, Rudolph, I think, ran the X30 senior division at NOLA, so didn't run the KA100 senior class. So he's jumping back into the 100cc side of things. So this will be his Pro Tour debut in this category. So we'll see if he's able to perform as he did at the SKUSA Winter Series, where he was towards the front of the field each weekend there.
Well, here's an interesting one for you too. I had a lot of conversations when I'm at the Road to Indy, people asking me, whether it's IndyCar team owners or managers or throughout the Road to Indy, about young females coming up through karting. They're dying. Everybody wants to have a young female American driver in the Road to Indy, focused on trying to get to the NTT IndyCar Series. Everybody wants that, right? There's 4 really talented female drivers running in this particular field this weekend. You got Brooke Berry, Gia Cicero, who has dialed things up. Cicero getting her first podium finish in SKUSA Pro Tour competition at NOLA. You've got Lydia Small out of Arizona as well, and Macy Williams out of Colorado. 4 quick females, David, that we could see inside the top 10.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, Cicero, I think, likes the Utah facility. She finished on the podium at NOLA, as you mentioned, so she's got that momentum. Yeah. She did really well at the SKUSA Winter Series, so I think 2022 is kind of going to be her breakout season, something we've been kind of waiting to see happen, because we knew she had the talent there. Obviously, her brother Nate showing well in the X30 senior division now. So that's going to be an interesting pairing or driver to watch, along with Macy Williams, a driver from Colorado. We've seen her do really well on the West in 100cc competition. So we'll see if she's able to be among those in the top 10 challenging for the podium this weekend.
Yeah, 2 other drivers we saw kind of working well at NOLA and have kind of dialed things in a bit. Josiah Tracy from Iron Rock Motorsports. I think he'll be good on the weekend. Caleb Schrader continues to find speed. And then, David, anytime you come to a facility that's challenging, like the one at Utah Motorsports Campus, I think you got to lean a little bit to the drivers who are locals, right? Who can step up as a local driver coming to challenge themselves against the top running nationals. We love that. We kind of call it the World of Outlaws deal, right? Where the World of Outlaws comes into town and the local track sprint car champion, steps up to try to run against the big dogs of the World of Outlaws. I think a couple of names in my mind that'll probably potentially be there. First and foremost, probably Walker Hess. We've seen him run really well on the national level. And then Andy Nish running with Rawlison Performance Group. I think it'll give him the opportunity to potentially, at least be in the discussion in the top 10.
Yeah, Hess was a winner in, I want to say, 2019. I don't have the notes here in front of me, but I'm pretty sure he was a winner, if not a podium finisher. I want to say that year, and it was a contender last year as well too. And you already mentioned Andy Nish as well, Jacob Elkins, and where's the other driver? I just had it right there. Where'd it go? Oh man, I lost it. Ethan Rapp. There we go.
Yeah. With M squared.
Yep, M squared. So that's So 4 drivers that call Utah home. So they'll be working hard to kind of defend their turf this weekend.
Let's go to Pro Shifter. We talked about there's money up for grabs. Most definitely 22 entries in total. There's been a lot of stuff going on, which is really interesting. We got drivers moving teams. Of course, we got a former world champion coming over here this year to kind of focus on helping to build the Burrell Art North America program. I'm talking about Marian Kremers. He was able to sweep the weekend, win both races at NOLA Motorsports Park for the Winter Nationals. He comes in with a point lead over the number 1 ranked shifter car driver in the country, AJ Myers. Jacob Gulick back by 187, Kyle Wick by 242, and Billy Musgrave by 253. Let's start with Kremers. Let's go there. Obviously coming over here to try to put Burrell Art up front, show the speed of that Burrell Art shifter chassis. Really got the job done, David, at NOLA. He'll try to keep that momentum rolling through Utah.
Yeah, perfect weekend, scoring maximum points in both rounds at NOLA. So that's obviously the goal moving forward. As you mentioned, some silly season going on. So he still has Jake French there as a teammate. French coming in 8th in the championship, only was able to pull off a 5th place finish as his best result on the weekend. But they are bringing on Hunter Pickett as their new teammate. Pickett, driver we see compete with GFC essentially when it began back in 2018. Ran with Illuminous prior to that. So this is a new home for Hunter Pickett, who has 2 Challenge America's championships under his belt. So the guy knows shifter kart racing. It's a matter of, okay, now that he's with Kremers, with French, is he able to be that type of performance outside the West Coast? Obviously, we are on the west side of the country, but Utah is a completely different racetrack than what you run at Challenge America's or even Sonoma, his home racetrack. So again, we'll see if this new pairing is able to try and pull off a sweep in the podiums with Kremers, French, and Pickett.
David, GFC, Gary Carlton's program still coming in with a lot of heavy hitters. Kyle Wick, of course, former Pro Tour champion. His brother Connor Wick running as well. You got Jacob Gulick, who really has, I think, over the last year and a half been dialing things in, and it's been impressive to see what he's been able to do. They've got Charlotte Chung as well on the Track Magic under the GFC banner. But obviously Wick and Gulick leading the way for the GFC crew.
Yeah, those 2 drivers have been performing very well already in 2022. We saw Kyle Wick grab 2 victories at the Challenge of the Americas. We saw Gulick get his first victory there. And they're sitting there with Gulick 3rd in the championship, Kyle Wick in 4th. So they still have, opportunity to contend. They're obviously going to need a little bit of help. With Wick only pulling off 1 podium result at NOLA, while Jacob Gulick was 4th in both rounds. So he's obviously going to be looking to get on the podium both rounds this weekend.
Big money up for grabs. That guys like AJ Myers and Billy Musgrave, 4-time SCUSA champion, always rise to the occasion. The Magic Kart USA program has been very strong over the last couple of years. And Billy continues to dial in his own factory kart chassis, right? The chassis they build down here in Southern California. Good opportunity for Musgrave. If you want to put this thing up front, win some money, and put the thing on the national scene, a factory kart win for Billy Musgrave would be big here in Utah, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a track where he's done pretty well. I think, he had some issues last year that kind of kept him out of contending for a podium result. But, Billy's pretty determined. He's always focused on trying to get the best out of his equipment. And, unfortunately, mechanical here or this there kind of keeps him from getting that. So we'll see if, he's on his A game this weekend to be able to compete against the young guns in Pro Shifter.
Yeah, and he'll have former Pro Shifter 2 driver Chente Salas running under the Musgrave Racing Company factory kart program as well. 2 other that I want to bring up. David Greco for PSL Karting has been very good over the start of the season for PSL Karting on the Burrell Art. So I expect him to be a guy in the top 10. And how about Hannah Greenmeyer? She's been doing some shifter racing, David. She's planning on making her Pro Shifter debut this weekend, correct?
Yes, the 2021 X30 senior champion is making the move over to Pro Shifter for the first time in Superkarts USA competition. We've seen Greenmeyer race, Challenge in the Americas in the shifter category over the last 2 years. Obviously, working with Bonner Moulton and Mike Beanie, who are shifter legends in their own right, and are slowly getting her up to speed. She's gotten better each weekend we've seen her, and so this will be again a track she's very used to. She knows this racetrack very well. Testing with Beanie and Bonner over and over again. So I think that grows to her advantage, and hopefully be able to be competing in that top 5 against a lot of solid names that are going to be there this weekend.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be following along. I said I'll be at Road America, but man, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this one for sure. This will be a lot of fun. 7 of the top 10 drivers in the EKN shifter rankings in the field this coming weekend at the Superkarts USA Pro Tour SpringNationals in Utah. Money up for grabs. The Aspen Fuels green for green. Again, a lot of dough up for grabs for whoever comes away with the race wins on the weekend. Folks, don't go anywhere. We got another break. When we get back, we'll do the preview of X30 Junior, KA100 Junior, and master shifter. The new face of competitive karting in the Pacific Northwest region is RaceLab. The full-service karting operation is located at the state-of-the-art Kartplex facility in Oliver, British Columbia, Canada, providing everything you need to hit the track or put yourself in a successful driver development program. RaceLab is the official North American distributor for the TB Kart chassis brand, providing the full range of models from kid kart to shifter kart. Villeneuve Racing Karts is their flagship product, available only through RaceLab. The brand carries the name of Formula One champion and Indianapolis 500 winner Jacques Villeneuve, with each model produced by TB Kart. Kartplex, the home of RaceLab, is situated on the grounds of the Area 27 Motorsports Park. From full arrive and drive TB Kart rentals to leagues and competition karting, the facility provides a new home to developing the future stars of motorsports, all beginning at Kartplex with RaceLab. Follow RaceLab on social media on Facebook and Instagram, or load up their website at www.theracelab.ca to learn more about TB Kart and Villeneuve Racing Karts. RaceLab. Race with us, win with us.
History, success, family. Those are the three words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located just outside of Indianapolis, and they have provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers throughout their near 6 decades of business. Comet's online store features everything you need, continually adding new parts to their product line. Comet Kart Sales attends dozens of karting events every year, offering trackside service for racers and families. Karting veterans Mark Dismore Jr. and Gary Lawson provide one-on-one driver coaching and tuning assistance for each trackside customer. The engine building business, Comet Racing Engines, has won countless major events and championships over decades of karting, and they continue to offer the best trackside service in the industry. Make sure you head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be a part of the Comet Kart Sales family today.
Welcome back to episode 39 of the EKN OutLap, where we are doing a preview of this weekend's Superkarts USA Spring Nationals at Utah Motorsports Campus. Rob Howden alongside David Cole. Dave, let's jump into X30 Junior right now, dropping the entries down to about 22. But, man, it is packed with talent. Caleb Gaffera and Aiden Ingrata, the winners at NOLA Motorsports Park. But it's Max Garcia with the consistent performance over the entire weekend down in New Orleans. He holds a 12-point lead over Gaffera coming into Utah.
Yeah, and Max is actually just returning from racing over in Europe. He was able to compete for the first time in the FIA European Championship. The round in Sweden was racing with Kart Republic and actually was able to qualify for the main event. Ended up finishing 31st after a couple penalties that dropped him down the order. But overall, good solid weekend for him to get that first international outing at the FIA European Championships under his belt. Now coming back to compete and try and continue leading in the championship chase for the X30 junior division. Again, leading by 12 points over Caleb Gaffera, with Brandon Carr only 45 points out in third.
Yeah, the next two drivers in the points, fourth and fifth, we got some information on them. Aiden Ingrata, 57 points back. David, we'll give you a second there. And then Elio Mesa, 140 points back. Let's start with Aiden Ingrata. He's going to move brands coming into Utah.
Yeah, still racing with Speed Concepts Racing Tent this weekend. But as we saw racing back home in Canada, made the move over to the CRG brand, and that's going to continue as he goes to Utah. So he'll be one of those added drivers under the CRG Nordam banner, racing with Speed Concepts Racing. So he'll be racing alongside Cameron Weinberg and Christian Brooks, who's under the Nash Motorsports tent. But Ingrata will be the junior driver aboard the CRG machine.
And David, just as I was kind of working away here, getting set up for the show, I saw a Facebook notification come in on an issue for Elio Mesa. Fill us in on that.
Yeah, Elio had appendix surgery, so is back home in Texas and will not be making the trip over to Utah this weekend. So Mesa not competing in either the X30 junior category or the KA100 junior class.
Yeah, we obviously send our best to Elio. He obviously a very impressive young driver, and he would 100% have been in the fight for the race wins this coming weekend. So we hope he's on the mend very quickly. Another team move as well, David, you've got down here. I actually didn't know about this one. I saw it as I looked at the entries today. We talked about Jeremy Fletcher making the move to Ryan Perry Motorsports. They'll add a driver in X30 Junior as well in the Canadian Jensen Burnett.
Yeah, Jensen wasn't at the at Winter Nationals, was he? I couldn't find him in the results. So this will be his 2022. Yeah, this will be his 2022 debut at the Pro Tour in X30 Junior. And again, we've seen him race in other categories at the Pro Tour with in other brands. And I want to say most recently with Parolin at the Winter Series. But going to make the move over to Ryan Perry Motorsport this weekend. Again, making his 2022 Pro Tour debut.
Yeah, another good half dozen drivers we should probably keep an eye on right now. Let's look at the Mike Doty camp with Cameron Brinkman and Max Taylor. Both those drivers are having pretty solid seasons here in 2022.
Yeah, Max Taylor been a contender pretty much everywhere we went along the East Coast. So we'll see if he's able to carry into Utah this weekend.
Stephen Miller for Chad Dockin Racing, the Florida driver, having some success in the SCUSA Winter Series. Obviously keeping an eye out for him. Teddy Musella for Rawlson Performance Group. I remember back when we kind of got down to the first SCUSA Winter Series race, and of course Caleb Gaffera kind of leading the junior program for Rawlson. But Mike Rawlson said to me, keep an eye on this Teddy Musella kid. He has got a lot of talent, showed it there, and I think you're going to see him find more and more speed throughout the year. This could be a good weekend for Teddy.
Yeah, add in Ernesto Riviera. It was pretty solid at GoPro Motorplex at the USPKS weekend.
Indeed. Yeah.
So, again, Rawlson Performance Group adding more bullets to their gun in the junior categories.
What are your thoughts on Jesus Vasquez Jr., qualified on the pole at the Super Nationals? Let's see what he potentially has here this weekend, you think?
Yeah, didn't quite do well at NOLA. Was really not in contention all weekend long. So we'll see if doing the double duty this weekend will help him in Utah.
Other guys that we've, of course, talked about over the year here being up front in the X30 junior class, Michael Costello, Cooper Shipman, and Charlie Smith. I expect that Xander, when he has the Kart Chaser broadcast role, will probably be mentioning these guys throughout the weekend too.
Yeah, again, it's another solid deep field. Numbers are only 22 drivers, but again, near over half of the drivers are capable of battling for the victory or a podium position.
As is the case many times when we're talking about X30 Junior, a lot of the drivers transition over to the preview for KA100 Junior because we have a lot of them that do the double duty. 36 drivers in total, a number of drivers, of course, not doing that double duty run. Elio Mesa was a winner at NOLA Motorsports Park at the Winter Nats. That will not be here as we've dialed in. Jesus Vasquez Jr., we kind of just wrapped up and how much speed he has. He was a winner there too. But coming in, Mesa is the point leader, and tough to see him not there. And I'm sure it's gutting him a bit. That will unofficially move Caleb Gaffera to the point lead over Steven Eisert, Christian Cameron, Parker DeLong, and Oscar Iliff. Issue though, David, in your notes, we're missing a bunch of drivers here, which is quite interesting.
Well, let me begin. Cameron, not on the entry list. I thought for sure we'd see him there, so I wasn't able to connect with him to confirm or deny. Parker DeLong, unofficially, I've been told is racing pro shifter. So this is going to be something we'll have to follow along and get updated when we get to the trackside on Friday morning. Yeah. And then Oscar Iliff did confirm that he will be there in Utah. They've already were there last weekend testing. Just a simple mistake by father of not registering his two kids.
Oh, no. What else do we have in that one? Who, in your mind, you think comes in as the driver to beat? In my mind, out of the gate, obviously Caleb Gaffera. But you and I have watched. We already mentioned the junior, right? The Stephen Millers, the Max Taylors, the Cooper Shipmans. Drivers will probably be able to work to the front. Ernesto Rivera as well, right? Very similar guys, David, that we talked about in X30 Junior.
Yeah, especially, the double duty guys are going to be those that, got double the track time, be, again, lot of experience between all of them. And again, able to kind of go back and forth between the two packages and find out what works and what doesn't. Again, that's going to be a key element. I guess those who aren't doing double duty to kind of watch, I'd look at like a Spencer Conrad, again, driver that's, we saw do really well in micro and mini and still kind of getting his ground in the junior ranks. And I think this year he's certainly stepped up and could be a contender this weekend. You said Isert, he's sitting now second in points. I watch for him to do pretty well this weekend as well, too. And Keegan Kaminsky, the GFC driver out of California, came over and did the USPKS in May, was among the top 5 contenders. Contact on Saturday cost him, and then a little bit on Sunday as well too. But I expect to see a little bit of speed out of him. GFC does have a little bit of home track with a dealer there right at the Utah Motorsports campus. Yeah. So I would expect to see the GFC brands doing really well in both shifter and single speed.
Yeah, and I'll throw to Preston Lambert on that one, right? You talked about Scuderia Lytle that is there at the Utah Motorsports campus as a GFC dealer. Lambert on the Track Magic under the GFC camp. This guy's coming off a pretty good challenge of the Americas, had a huge win in Tucson, David. This would be a good test, I think, for Preston against what is a pretty strong 36-kart field.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, and again, Kaminsky already has that experience at GoPro racing against, nearly all the same type of drivers that were there that are going to be there this weekend. So they'll be able to work together. Again, a lot of different, I want to say 4 or 5 different drivers aboard the GFC just in this category. So a lot of drivers to be able to work together and get the setup right and be able to work together on racetrack as well too.
Another one I've got highlighted here because I've obviously talked about him quite a bit over the last year and a bit is Valentino Garbarino. I think he may, again, if you get settled in, you get comfortable. He's with Ryan Perry Motorsports. Garbarino would likely be in the top 10 too, I would think.
Yeah, didn't quite have the Winter Nationals. I expect he hoped to have. Ended up finishing in the top 10 on Sunday. So again, another good weekend could kind of move him up. And again, championship still kind of wide open with Meza being out now. And a couple of other drivers as well too. So still nothing set in stone right now. If you're able to come away with a good weekend in Utah, another driver that struggled in NOLA that I think might show up well too is Cooper Shipman. Yeah, it's right now sitting 13th in the championship, but we've seen him do extremely well. Raced toe to toe with Elio Meza at the Texas Sprint Racing Series event at the Speed Sports Racing Park in north of Houston there. So Shipman, again, another driver who's steadily making growth in the junior ranks that I would expect to see battle in the top 10 this weekend.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, David. Let's wrap up this segment with a quick one here. 5 drivers set to go in Master Shifter. Vincent Cassard comes in as the point leader, won both races at NOLA. He will be here this weekend. Only 4 drivers all told. Vincent Cassard, Robert Fiege, Michael Gouache coming in, Victor Jimenez, and Ken Schilling. Tim DeBeloy comes in 3rd in points, not there. Anthony Stifler in 4th, not on the grid. Just tough to see this, David, for me, as I'm such a shifter guy, because that's where I kind of got my start as a publisher with Shifter Card Illustrated. Hate to see the numbers dwindling down, especially in the Masters class, because I'm a Masters driver. Vincent Cassard, those we know, running for PSL Karting, will be the guy to beat on the weekend. Victor Jimenez is fast. We know Michael Gouache has been quick. He's with Ron White Racing on a CRG. All told, 5 drivers in total for Master Shifter.
Well, something to take away will be the battle of the big 3: CRG versus Tony Kart versus Burrell Art. This will be a good little battle between those 3 brands.
I like that. That's a good storyline for that one. Sure, we'll see which brand steps up to the forefront. Final break, folks. When we get back, we'll take you through Mini Swift and Micro Swift to wrap up this edition of the OutLap. Powered by technology, DID racing chains have a worldwide reputation for superior quality and reliability. Meticulously engineered and manufactured in Japan, DID Genuine Parts are the world's #1 original parts supplier for Japanese and European motorcycle manufacturers. A rich racing tradition where results speak for themselves, DID prides itself on engineering the most technologically advanced chains on the market, to help you excel on and off the track. DID's SDH pin treatment creates an extremely hard chromium carbide layer on the pin surface that houses a soft inner core to absorb extreme shock loads. DID's 219 HTZ racing chain boasts this SDH pin technology, which leads to longer chain life as well as excellent energy transmission to the wheels. Available in the gorgeous gold, the 219 HTZ is the ultimate racing kart chain. Pick up a DID chain at your local dealer today, because when winning is the only thing that matters, go with DID. CRG is one of the most iconic brands in karting, and we're primed and ready for the 2022 season with new material and a never-ending focus on winning. CRG Nordam is the North American distributor for all CRG products. Based outside of Houston, Texas, CRG Nordam supports CRG dealers across the continent, reaching every corner of North America. The CRG KT5 is our new chassis for tag and shifter racing, and it's been designed specifically for the US market. The KT5 features 30mm construction with a 32mm front loop to increase front grip. CRG's new VEN 13 brake system is cutting-edge technology with a master cylinder that allows for pressure regulation within the system. Drivers can customize brake pressure to their own requirements to improve feel and to avoid brake lockup. The kart is finished with new KG 507, 508 bodywork that has refined aerodynamics and reduced weight. For cadet drivers, the 2022 CRG Black Mirror is already logging positive results to start the new season. This chassis will be making big waves in 2022. Longtime CRG drivers will be happy to know that the CRG Road Rebel, the standard in quality and performance, is still available. With 4-cycle racing enjoying consistent growth in North America, CRG's FS4 chassis is the ideal choice for racers in brakes and Stratton competition. From pure racing to karting entertainment, many tracks, both indoor and outdoor, have made the switch to the CRG Centurion rental kart line. 5 different models for both gas-powered or electric engines can fit any track's needs for a new rental kart fleet. CRG Nordam has a full inventory of rental karts available for new and existing facilities. For more information on the CRG product line, head to www.kartcrg.com, and to inquire about a North American dealer near you, please email us at info@kartcrg-nordam.com. Back to cap off episode 39 of the EKN OutLap, our preview podcast of the event we're talking about here today, this weekend, Superkarts USA Spring Nationals at Utah Motorsports Campus. All that's left in terms of class previews are Mini Swift and Micro Swift, 35 strong in Mini and 20 in the Micro category. We'll start off with Mini Swift. Winners at NOLA Motorsports Park at the Winter Nationals, Jack Iliff and Tyler Roberts. But David, seems to be the theme, right? The winners are the guys that had the points leads because you have to have a full body of work over a weekend. Oliver Weldon comes in with a point lead, 40 markers ahead of Jack Iliff.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do not have either of the Weldon brothers on the entry list. I sent message to confirm or deny and nothing back yet. So as of right now, we don't see the Weldon brothers racing there this weekend. So that essentially takes Weldon out of the championship chase going into the weekend. That promotes Jack Iliff to the top spot. As we talked about his brother Oscar already, he's not on the entry list, but will be in Utah racing this weekend. But you throw in the other driver who's not going to be there, and that's third place of Keelan Harvick. Harvick, not going to be in Utah, is actually preparing to head over to Italy to race later this month. So that is the breaking news in terms of the Mini Swift Championship chase right now.
Yeah, indeed. Keelan Harvick going to go do some European racing, and that's going to move Carson Weinberg up as well. He's 81 points behind Weldon coming in now. He's only 41 points behind Jack Iliff, so it kind of blows things wide open. Vivek Canthan, who's fifth in points, not on the entry list as well. So there's a number of drivers not on the entry list here for Mini, and that's going to, David, I think, open up the opportunities for a Tyler Roberts, for an Asher Ockstein, for Lucas Palacio, right? Young kid making his move up from Mini to Micro to Mini. Palacio's been pretty impressive with Trinity Karting Group. This could be an opportunity for him to get his way back. As you remember, his first victory in the SKUSA Pro Tour last year here at Utah.
Sorry, I lost you. Who got that victory?
Lucas Palacio.
Yes. Yeah, Lucas. Right? Yeah, he was. He did not have a solid NOLA weekend, so this is certainly going to help him. He sits 14 in the championship chase. You already mentioned Tyler Roberts, who ended up getting that victory in round 2. Gage Bailey, you mentioned Austin as well. Max Cristia, the PSL Burrell Art driver as well. Alessandro Truchot, who moved up to Mini that weekend. He is scheduled to compete this weekend, so he's sitting 10th. So that's going to help him move up in the standings as well. So a lot of different. Sarah Bradley, I don't know if she's in the entry list.
I don't see her on the entry list.
I think she's making the move up at the regional level to the junior ranks. So she is not racing with Paralympic USA any longer. So that's going to, so there's a lot of drivers that are sitting in the top 10 now that have the ability to move up and put themselves in the championship chase, along with those who are below that. Like you said, Lucas Palacio and Ashton Woon. We've seen him do really well in the micro division and is racing Mini at this level, at least. So, he picked up 2 victories at the micro division in USBKS competition, but racing Mini here in the Pro Tour. So, again, he'll be able to move up. Another driver, Ty Fisher, he's another driver that's kind of working with Speeds Concept Racing under the Race Lab banner as they continue to develop the new distribution and race team here in North America for the TB kart brand and the JV kart as well, too. So a number of different drivers that have the ability to move up all weekend long. Yes,
some of the other ones I'll just throw out because we talk a lot about them, and I know they're always kind of there. Tristan Murphy being one. I would say Devin Waltz could be pretty good with Motaz Sport and RDX. Nico Sarfati, David, one of our good buddies in the paddock. Nico coming off a win as well, regional victory win. So Nico with GFC may have some momentum coming into the SpringNationals.
Yeah, picked up the victory at the California Pro Kart Challenge at Button Willow. So, getting that first victory in the mini ranks certainly helps build that confidence for the young cadet drivers. Carson Weinberg, we've already talked about him. Moon, we've talked about him. Just kind of going through my list right now to make sure, I don't miss anybody. So it's just a number of different drivers. Again, this is another deep field. Again, 35 drivers that are going to be racing there. Turner Brown, another driver we've talked about at the Challenge of the Americas. He's making the move over to the CRG brand under the Speeds Concepts Racing tent. So that's another move to kind of watch as well, too.
Yeah, last but not least, I'd say Cypress Andros with Greg Bell and Leading Edge Motorsports. He's due for a breakout weekend. That could happen here in Utah as well.
Yeah, again, lots of different drivers in this 35 driver field.
All right, let's go to Micro Swift to wrap up this edition of the EKN OutLap. 20 drivers strong. Troy Ferguson went back-to-back at NOLA Motorsports Park, has a lead of 65 over Rocco Simoni. You got Drew Waltz in there as well. He was a podium finisher at NOLA. Royce Vega and Nicholas Orbezo rounding out the top 5 in the category. Again, Ferguson coming in with a whole bunch of momentum as the point leader here in Micro, Dave.
Yeah, again, that's a pretty good solid lead going into the second round. But, Rocco Simoni, we've seen do really well all season long thus far. So he's always putting himself in position to be able to challenge. And again, this is going to be one of those racetracks that, the more experienced drivers who are able to make less mistakes are going to be those who stay in the lead group. And so you got to figure Ferguson and Simoni are going to be there. The rest of the field, it's who can keep that performance up and who can be able to hang with the leaders all weekend long. Because this is the one category we saw multiple drivers in the lead pack all weekend long, and we saw a couple drivers pick up their first Pro Tour victories. So it was a really exciting class to.
Yeah, I think you've got Royce Vega
watch all weekend long.
Yeah, Dave, I think you've got Royce Vega. I think you got Kason Hodge, who was so impressive at the Challenge of the Americas. There's a lot of drivers. I think you're bang on. Jackson Gibson, Luke Giglio, 2 drivers as well. Giglio with PSL Karting, Jackson Gibson with Rawlison Performance Group. These are the guys that have the ability to run up front. But again, these guys are young, right? They're in the Micro Swift category. As long as they're dialed in, they've got their focus right, then there's an opportunity for them to have some success.
Yeah, it's all about keeping focus, keeping the mistakes at a minimal, and keeping in that lead draft, because once you lose that lead draft, it's very tough to get back up there.
Yeah, you're done. Especially at Utah Motorsports Campus, you'll see a good lead pack up front, and then again, that's the strategy. Just keep trying to drop the guys off the back, and in the end, if it's a 2-driver battle, you've done your job. Well, that wraps up this edition of the EKN OutLap. We gave you a full preview of all the categories lined up for the Superkarts USA SpringNationals this weekend in Utah. Make sure to follow all of the social media platforms. The event, of course, live on Kart Chaser. David will have his full EKN Trackside program, race reports, and, of course, all the coverage on social media, giving you a really good look behind the scenes. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The hashtags will be hashtag EKN at SCUSA, hashtag SCUSA Pro Tour, and hashtag SpringNats 2022. David, it's going to be a good trip for you. Great racetrack, Utah Motorsports Campus. Going to be some nice weather in the high 80s, low 90s. Make sure you suck back the Gatorade. Shorts and t-shirts, or at least your EKN polo all weekend long. And dude, In-N-Out Burger in Utah as well.
Yeah, In-N-Out Burger, certainly excited to get my fix. It's been since March, the end of March, when we were in Sonoma. So definitely going to hit it when I land. It is a ways back from the racetrack and where the hotel, so I might only get it that one time. But be sure to watch Instagram and Facebook for a photo of what I do eat there.
Yeah, the minute it lands, there'll be a photo on Facebook.
Oh yeah, you know it. Yeah, I don't know if I could consider this nice weather, because it is going to be a little warm. It's really nice weather here because you're in the 60s to 70s here at home. So 90s is not exactly what, I think when I think 90s, I think of pool or a lake.
Yeah, not sitting out at a dusty racetrack, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, folks, that wraps things up for this edition of the EKN OutLap. Hope you enjoyed it. David will have coverage all weekend long. So you guys are going to enjoy it, folks. It's going to be a great weekend of competition. Midway line through the Superkarts USA Pro Tour. Late July, we'll wrap it all up at Newcastle Motorsports Park with the Summer Nationals. We'll see who comes out with the number 1 plates. We do appreciate you guys joining in. Again, big thank you to Greg Bell and Leading Edge Motorsports for presenting this edition of the OutLap. We'll be back likely Tuesday or Wednesday with the debrief Race Report podcast here on the EKN Radio Network. If you haven't downloaded the EKN Radio Network app, do that for your mobile device through, of course, Apple and Google. Great to have David Cole with us again, as always, for this edition of the OutLap. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. On behalf of David Cole and Nate Dean, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.